I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the case everyone is talking about, the tragic abduction of Nancy Guthrie. A lot of attention and a lot of resources have been put to this case, but still no arrests or any proof of life. Here's the story. Nancy Guthrie never misses church. That's why when she didn't log on Sunday morning, alarm bells rang. The 84-year-old Tucson resident had last been seen hours earlier at her Catalina Foothills home. By midday, family members discovered she was gone. Authorities soon declared the home a crime scene. Sheriff Chris Nano said investigators believe she was taken against her will. She has limited mobility and requires daily medication. She could not have simply walked away. Blood confirmed to be Nancy's was found at the property. Surveillance later revealed a masked person outside overnight. Then came the chilling development. Ransom letters referencing personal details surfaced publicly. The FBI joined the search, but despite the attention and the national spotlight tied to her famous daughter, there is still no confirmed proof of life. This story, obviously a true crime mystery. It's something that investigators are trying desperately to solve, from local to the FBI. It's become somewhat of an obsession, but at the heart of everything involved in this story, it's the story of a family that is being tortured. Absolutely tortured in such a cruel manner when you think of the way all of this has transpired and where we are so many weeks later. They're in a place of desperation. And we've seen that play out in some of the videos that have been released by the family, and specifically by Savannah Guthrie, someone that many of us know, right? We see her every morning on the Today Show. And, you know, who she is in the Today Show is who she is. She's a really nice human being. And to see her suffer and go through all of this, and now another video has been released by Savannah Guthrie. I want to bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. So in this newest heartbreaking video, what sort of new things are we hearing here?
Yeah, Vinny, we got a couple of highlights in this new video. One being, of course, that the family still has hope. Two, we hear Savannah Guthrie acknowledge for the first time that her mother, Nancy, may no longer be with us. And third, Vinny, we hear of a new family reward for any information regarding Nancy's whereabouts. Take a listen to this.
It is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. And every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony since then, of worrying about her and fearing for her and aching for her, and most of all, just missing her, We know that millions of you have been praying. So many people have been praying, of every faith and no faith at all, praying for her return. And we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. Hope against hope. As my sister says, we are blowing on the embers of hope. We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone. She may have already gone home to the Lord that she loves and is dancing in heaven with her mom and her dad and with her beloved brother Pierce and with our daddy. And if this is what is to be, then we will accept it. But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery. All of the information about this reward and the details is in the caption below. You can call the 1-800 tip line. You can be anonymous if you want. Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now.
So we got $1 million reward now from Savannah Guthrie's family, Vinnie, but we know there's been a bit of a reward history. We know the FBI initially announced that there was a $50,000 reward for any information. Then a couple weeks later, they upped that amount to $100,000. And then also there's an attorney in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who offered up $100,000 through Milwaukee Crime Stoppers because he also has work that he does through Crime Stoppers. So that's $200,000 of reward money on the table before this $1 million offer as well. But we've also now learned that Savannah Guthrie initially wanted to offer up this $1 million the day that her mother went missing. According to reporting by the New York Post, Vinnie, Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie had wanted to offer $1 million reward for her mom's safe return on the day she went missing, but investigators shot down the idea, according to inside sources. She had wanted to offer the $1 million on day one, but, quote, all involved in the investigation feared it would result in a deluge of bogus tips when investigators already had thousands of tips coming in organically, according to the source. Now, Vinnie, of course, I understand where they're coming from, but we also heard the FBI say regarding those ransom letters that we heard about that any decision made regarding those would be left up to the family. So it leaves me wondering, why not this as well?
Yeah, and if it's not like there was no reward. Like, there was a reward. It was $50,000, which might motivate some people, but $1 million might motivate someone closer to the abductor. Like a cousin, an ex, a spouse, an ex-spouse. I mean, there are a lot of people that could be closer to someone that, for $50,000, maybe I don't do it. $1 million, my life has changed. And that brings me to the first question in our investigation tonight. Why wouldn't they want a large reward for information? When I say they, I mean like law enforcement. If there's 50,000 up, why? And then they up it, right? They put out 50, then they up it to 100. That's the FBI. Does a lot of this stuff. Yet they didn't want a reward on day one or day two or day three or day four or day 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up until day 24. Let's try to get some insight here. Joining me, founding member of the NYPD K-9 unit and former Nassau County Police Lieutenant Mike Gould is with us, and missing persons private investigator, search and rescue pilot, ground search technician Steve Fisher also with us. Thanks so much. All right, Mike, why? I don't understand this, right? All right, if there's no reward, right? There's no reward. We don't want these people just sending us fake information, which, by the way, in a high-profile case, they will do anyway. I don't know how many high-profile ones the sheriff's been involved with. But what's the difference? To me, the only difference between 50,000 and $1 million is that $1 million might motivate someone who may not be motivated by 50,000, who is close to an abductor / potential murderer.
Yeah, Vinnie, I don't disagree completely, but there's always, of course, 3 sides to every story. That $1 million also will bring out a large fringe group of lunatics also trying to scam the family out of the money. So initially, I think, and whether we can go back and judge it, $50,000 is not a lot of money. $100,000 is not a lot of money.
But Mike, can I just ask you this? Can I ask you this about the lunatics coming out? But do the lunatics know you only get the money if the information leads to something? So it's not like you can make stuff up and fool them into giving you the $1 million. That's the part that's not computing in my head. Explain that to me.
Yeah, Vinnie, but they did try these ransom notes, which I never gave any credibility to whatsoever. That was motivated by money and trying to get money. So I don't disagree. And Savannah's right. I agree. Somebody out there knows something. To your point, what is that amount of money that's going to trigger a family member or a relative or a next door neighbor or friend to, come forward? And I'm not sure. So I understand. And initially, also, you have to remember, initially, the logistics of the FBI and investigators weren't set up to deal with the volume of incoming tips that they were getting a tremendous amount of tips. They thought, as I thought, this case would come to a conclusion a little quicker based on the digital evidence and other circumstantial evidence, but it just never came to fruition. And sadly, this is, as she said, the family is blowing on embers of hope, but again, tragically, this is an abduction. The facts have not changed from day one. This is an abduction. There's no theories, there's no suspects, there's no evidence, there's nothing more today than there was then. So it's an abduction. Abductions end, sadly, only in one of two ways, either by a rescue or a recovery. And I think the family has come to grips to some degree with that, and they're a family of faith. So I think that's where we're at right now in this case.
All right, Steve Fisher, you've been on the ground, you've worked with families, you've worked with law enforcement. Explain it to me why the large reward, why $50,000 is okay, but $1 million, don't do $1 million.
Well, I'll tell you, in most circumstances, I don't love rewards. They overwhelm the investigators. I mean, you just get so many tips that you got to run down, and you know that they're not legit. But there's a difference in this one, and I heard you on your show the other day calling for a 7-figure reward. And what changes this, because they have the ability to do that, is this person that abducted her now is got to be extremely paranoid, because $1 million is going to flip just about anybody, and that their behavior is going to change. They're going to make mistakes now. I think that it's a great thing. I do understand, why they wanted to delay that at the beginning, and I think that's why they ramped it from 50 to 100,000 very quickly. They were bringing up, they got 400 investigators now. Now they do have the manpower to take in a lot of this volume they're going to get. But in a normal case, you don't have 400 investigators working on it. Rewards can really, I'm for them if they're through like Crime Stoppers or something, but it's tough when they're coming directly to a family.
Yeah, but and Steve, like, the other thing that makes this very different, right, is this was high profile from minute one. So it was going to get the coverage. I don't know if they understood that out in Arizona or not, but it's Savannah Guthrie, top of the food chain in the news business. So you don't think the news is going to cover someone from the news business in a story like this? It was going to be huge no matter what. Keeping the reward down was not going to stop anything.
Well, I think, like I said, they probably thought they were going to solve this pretty quick, and of course, and they probably did underestimate just how much star power Savannah, brings to this. And this, I do think this is something that could really flush, this person. And I think it's a great strategy, right here, because it's a tremendous amount of money. And if it's going to work, I think it's going to work in the next 24, 48 hours. I think it'll be something very quick that somebody would flip on this person. If not, then we're in for a long haul, I think, with the genealogy.
Yeah. And I think the person who is now calling because they want $1 million is going to speak a little differently on the tip line. It's not going to be like, hey, I saw a green car driving over here. No, they're going to be very specific. They're going to be very loud. They're going to make sure they get noticed, even if they remain anonymous, which I guess you can. That's just my guess on human nature. But you two guys have been involved in this business a lot longer than I have, so that's why we bring you on. I need your perspective. Okay, coming up next, will DNA solve this case?
We will not rest. Your children will not rest.
Worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Corey has paraded around portraying herself as widow and victim while trying to profit from a book about his death. I never knew evil like this existed.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
We know that millions of you have been praying. So many people have been praying of every faith and no faith at all. praying for her return, and we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe.
Still holding on to hope. You have to. You absolutely have to, but they want to know. They want to know. Let's bring back in Cody Thomas, Court TV field reporter. Cody, all right, let's get back to some of the evidence now. Let's get to the DNA. What's going on with the DNA in this case right now?
Well, let's first start with what we know. And we know that blood spatter that was found on Nancy Guthrie's front porch, that DNA was sent off, tested, came back, and that DNA matched Nancy's DNA. Now, what do we also know, Vinny? We know we have this image obtained by the New York Post of a glove that was found 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's house. This glove is important because authorities thought it resembled the glove worn by the suspect that we've all seen in that creepy doorbell camera video. Now, this glove specifically, Pima County officials sent it off to a private DNA lab based out of Florida for testing instead of the FBI's DNA lab in Quantico, Virginia. Now, I don't know if there's a rift between the two entities there, but that is what happened with this glove, and that DNA on that glove had no hits in the National CODIS database. But Vinny, speaking of CODIS, take a listen to this reporting from Fox News Digital. They say, quote, the DNA samples recovered from inside Nancy Guthrie's home mainly came back to people who had a reason to be there, according to 2 federal law enforcement sources. One unknown sample yielded only a partial profile that could not be checked against the FBI's CODIS database of known offenders. And then, Vinny, we have reporting from News Nation's Libby Dean. She says, quote, the DNA found inside Nancy Guthrie's home was only a partial sample and was not viable for CODIS. A source familiar with the investigation tells me. So, Vinny, thus far, it doesn't seem that DNA is proving to be incredibly helpful, but we do know that authorities are turning their sights to public genealogical databases, kind of like 23andMe, and also kind of like what they used to catch the killer in the case involving the Idaho 4.
Absolutely. And that takes a little more time, although we had experts on and said you can speed that process up if you prioritize it, especially in a case involving an abduction. Okay. So again, doesn't sound that promising. Partial, no hits in CODIS in another place. Other ones, people who should be there, not people who are suspected of doing anything. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Will DNA solve this case? As Cody mentioned, it solved the Idaho 4 case. Still with me, former Police Lieutenant Mike Gould and missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher. Mike, what are your thoughts here? DNA, is this going to be a DNA case?
Yeah, Vinny, it is ultimately going to be a DNA case, but DNA is not the smoking gun that we think of when we watch shows on television. DNA is a very complicated science, and it's evolving every day, but you have to have a match. So that theory of the glove, for example, that to me was very far-fetched from its onset. It was just that it looked like a glove found 2 miles away. If you think of where you are right now and pick a 2-mile radius of all the different debris, backpacks, gloves, clothing that might be around a homeless encampment. So I never thought that was going to be. Regarding the mixed DNA inside the house, there's mixed DNA all over our house, your house, everywhere. You could have had a dinner party 6 months ago, and there could be mixed DNA from passing certain pasta bowl around. There's mixed DNA on the faucet of your sinks. Whether it's preserved or not, whether it's viable, but it's not unusual. And this DNA, depending on the environment, can last a very long time. It just doesn't evaporate in a day or two, unlike a fingerprint. It's analogous to a fingerprint in the sense you need a match. Just because you have a fingerprint, it means nothing without the person the fingerprint belongs to. So I don't think it's the smoking gun. I hope it contributes. It might be circumstantial evidence for prosecution down the road. But I don't feel any more comfortable today as I did, sadly, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Steve Fisher, your thoughts about DNA. Is this going to be a case that gets solved by the DNA?
I think there's a greater chance that if there's more of that surveillance footage, that will help than the DNA. But yes, I think it can be solved through DNA. I couldn't agree more with the other guests about the glove. I've never really understood why everybody was hanging on to hope for that so much. I mean, being in search and rescue, doing a lot of searches, I mean, the amount of gloves and Mylar balloons we find out there is just incredible. But This foreign DNA in the house, and it wasn't a strong enough sample to make it in CODIS. It's got to hit those 20 markers. But the IgG testing uses hundreds of thousands of markers. And this is, this is science with some really brilliant people working those family trees and stuff, and some computer power, and they can do amazing things. So if, that foreign DNA belongs to this person or persons, I think these brilliant people that work with the DNA will find it, but it's going to take time, unfortunately, because we don't have a direct match. And I'm hoping that there's going to be more surveillance that maybe they've recovered. I think that's really the key here. If somebody's going to recognize that person or the increased reward.
Mike Gold, are you concerned that a private lab was used and the FBI didn't take control of the DNA in this case?
No, not completely. And frankly, I don't know enough about DNA to really make that comment. I think labs are certified. I couldn't really comment on that. One thing I will say, Vinny, I was critical of the sheriff from the onset of this investigation. To be clear, not the sheriff's investigators, not the FBI, but the sheriff himself has done nothing in my mind except to create speculation, create very dubious theories. He makes comments like, your guess is as good as mine. Then he blames the media for asking questions. So he shouldn't be doing, I don't think, these one-on-one, off-the-cuff interviews. Every time he does, he throws some mix into it that's just very confounding to me. He doesn't know how to do a cohesive press conference, dealing with the press properly, acknowledging things, not commenting about things are fine. But he just confuses the issues. To me, it's been very frustrating listening to him.
Steve Fisher, we're 3.5 weeks in. Are you still confident, or I don't know if you were confident beforehand, but do you think we're going to get a result here, that we're going to get an arrest or information leading to the location of Nancy Guthrie?
Yeah, I think eventually, it's going to happen. I have been way too optimistic, unfortunately, in this case. I thought it was going to be, solved 10 days ago when that video came out. And, I was wrong. But I do think that even though, we're probably not going to see as big of a presence of investigators and stuff, they're still working it. And I do think that, the DNA is going to take a while if it takes that route. We got to hope that either this reward or something, or maybe we still haven't heard all that much about the second search warrant. We've heard that they were cleared, but not as much clarity as the first one where they said, they were essentially wrong. So maybe they still have something going, but every day feels very, very long right now.
It really does. Big thanks, Steve Fisher. And Mike Gould, thank you for that blue jacket as well. That's amazing. Like popping off the screen. Looking sharp as always. Thanks, guys. Still to come, will the backpack lead to the suspect? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, a story the public is in hoping for a safe return of Savannah Guthrie's mom, but everyone realizing that time just is not on her side at this point. Here's the story. At first, they believed there was no surveillance video. Then Google retrieved the images. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, vanished from her Tucson area home in overnight hours. Her family called police after finding her missing the next morning. Evidence quickly shifted the case into criminal territory. Blood on the front steps, security systems disabled, and then surveillance footage. A masked individual on her porch in the middle of the night, gloves, backpack, and what appeared to be a firearm. Authorities say Nancy did not leave voluntarily. The FBI is now assisting local law enforcement. Ransom communications surfaced, but investigators have not verified their legitimacy. For Savannah Guthrie and her siblings, it is intensely personal. For the rest of America, it is an unfolding mystery, one that grows more unsettling with every passing day. It's tough. You know, there's a level of frustration with the public. But then take a step back. I mean, Savannah and Annie and Cameron, that's your mom. That's your mom who raised you. You lost your dad when you were young. And mom has been there throughout. And these are the days she should be enjoying each and every moment. And this is horrible. And you don't know the answers to the most basic of questions, like who did this and why? Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. All right, the public so invested in this story, in this case, and locally, like they're getting together. People want to help. There was a backpack found over the weekend. What do we know about it?
Yeah, Vinny, as you said, they got together in a Hobby Lobby parking lot out there in the Tucson area in Arizona, near where Nancy Guthrie lived. Volunteers got together to go on their own informal search, looking for anything, any clues that they could turn over to deputies. And of course, they found this backpack here. We're looking at images that were put up on Getty Images and also images from JLR Investigates on the platform X. Of course, is of the backpack found. Now, the thing about it, though, Vinny, this backpack was found on Saturday. A day later, the Pima County Sheriff's Department said the backpack does not actually appear to be a viable lead because they say it's likely, or it is a different brand than the one worn by the suspect seen in the images we see here from that doorbell camera video that everyone across this country has now seen that was released by the FBI. Now, they also say that the backpack that they found outside looked like it was outside for longer than 3 weeks, and it also had the ID of a minor in it. So again, Vinny, more than likely not the backpack here, aside from it being a whole different brand. Now, here's both of the backpacks next to each other. Of course, the image on the right is a little dark, but we can still see that it's on his body there. But Vinny, what do we have that we went out and got? $10 from Walmart, because we know this backpack here, this is the brand, the Ozark Trail brand. This is the brand that the suspect was wearing in that doorbell camera video. And Vinny, you know, I'm sitting here looking at it. It's a 25-liter. This is the Ozark Trail brand that they say he had on. It's smaller than I expected. You know, we see the insignia here. It's not the Swiss logo that we see on the backpack found by the volunteers, but this is the exact brand. And Vinny, you know, the FBI profile of the guy said he was 5'9" to 5'11". I'm only maybe an inch or so taller than that, so I kind of fit the profile a little bit, and we can kind of see it here, what it looks like relatively on somebody that is probably in the same height, stature, the same build as the suspect. But again, Vinny, a little smaller than I expected. We got the reflectors right here that we see that reflect off of the suspect's backpack in that video. So this is the Ozark Trail, Vinny. We know it's exclusive to Walmart. We know that, you know, obviously very cheap. See that it's small, but this is it.
$10.
$10.
$10 from Walmart. All right, that brings us to the next question in our investigation, and it's all about the backpack. Huge piece of evidence in all this. Will the backpack lead to the suspect in this case? Joining me, former homicide detective, more than 20 years of experience, Phil Waters is with us, and the host of the Pascal Show, Pascal, is here. Great to have you both here. Great to see you guys. Phil, your thoughts about the significance of the backpack. It's something that sort of jumps off the screen at you when you watch that video. They've identified the brand. It seems like it's pretty much exclusive to Walmart. Can this backpack lead us to the suspect?
Well, good to be back with you, Vinny. I tell you, looking at evidence, and I've been in this exact type of a scenario, when you start getting different pieces of evidence and you start getting it verified that it is going to be associated with your scene, it becomes a part of the overall, the totality of the evidence that you're gathering. So I don't know that the backpack in specificity is going to be the main factor that leads to the suspect. I think it's going to be a combination of things. And the backpack is going to be a big part of it because it has been identified and it's exclusive to that particular brand and that particular store where it was purchased.
You know, it's interesting, Pascal. Obviously, whoever the abductor is, I've got to believe, has seen the video, has watched the coverage, knows that this backpack is a pretty big deal. It's been talked about a lot. What are your thoughts about the backpack itself and perhaps this suspect's reaction and what he might do with that backpack at this point?
Well, I think the first thing he's going to do is probably toss it. He's probably going to torch it or toss it for sure. But as far as law enforcement being able to connect the actual backpack to him, it might be, it might work, but it might be a full-on stretch. I mean, if this is as cheap as it is, as, you know, if people are buying that a lot at Walmart or any other store, the thing is that they're going to have to go through, I'm sure, an amazing amount of receipts just to find out who actually bought a very affordable backpack. The other thing is also, too, just to put a little bee in all of our bonnets, how long ago did this person actually buy this backpack? If this masked assailant actually went to the house, and if it's true that he was there days, if not weeks before the actual crime, then he may have had this whole thing planned for a while. So how long ago when did he actually buy this backpack? And if he did do that, I mean, the search just through receipts and purchases could take forever.
Yeah, Phil, how far back would you go in terms of, you know, speaking with folks at Walmart and trying to track people who have purchased this particular backpack?
I think in this case, I might go back as far as 6 months. And I will tell you something about Walmart now. I worked a capital murder case where Walmart became involved in it because the suspect that had murdered this young woman and stolen her debit card started using it at Walmart, and he was handing it to friends who were using it at Walmart. Now, I can tell you, Walmart has an amazing surveillance system. It has an amazing surveillance system set up at each register. Every person that goes in there and makes a transaction, you are seeing them scanning whatever they're purchasing, and they are at that specific register, and you are seeing every act that they're committing at that particular register. And we were able to use that, and they are amazing at documenting these sales. And Pascal's right. I mean, it's going to be time consuming because you're talking about now more digital evidence. And it takes time to go through all these things. And as good as Walmart is, it's going to take time to go through all of these purchases at however many. I'm just betting that it's a Walmart there in the area. How many Walmarts do they have? They're going to have to go, and they're going to be able to search specific to the types of items that were purchased. So it's a real possibility that a big break does come out of the backpack purchase. So Walmart, I tell you what, we picked up a license plate on a car where our bad guy got out of in the parking lot, and their cameras picked up the license plate from probably 200 yards away. So Walmart's got it going on when it comes to the security stuff, and that may be where the big break occurs.
Yeah, I guess it depends which Walmart you go to. When I go there, it's pretty much all self-checkout, and I'm always smiling because I know someone's taking my picture, Pascal, at that moment. So I want to make sure they catch my good side. But this particular backpack, we ordered through the mail. That's like another whole aspect of this. I don't know if you're planning a murder, if you're going to do mail order, but that is also part of the equation to buy this stuff from Walmart.
I don't think this guy's a low-budget crook. He doesn't appear to be terribly sophisticated. I don't know that he was that trying to mix things up by ordering it through the online or through the mail. So my bet is that this guy purchased that item and probably the other items as well, but at a Walmart there in the area. I just don't see him being that sophisticated.
Look at that, Phil. I mean, Pascal, Phil is teeing up the next segment. Amazing. This guy's getting so good at TV. Coming up next, did the suspect buy the whole outfit at Walmart?
We love you, Mom. I love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Corey, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder. He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief. The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV. Absolutely free.
We just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect.
And still no public suspect in this case. Let's bring back in Cody Thomas, Court TV field reporter. We talked about the backpack. The other thing everyone obviously is talking about is the mask. What do we know about the mask?
Well, Vinny, we heard chatter online about how the mask might be this brand, also exclusive to Walmart.com, called HoboX. Again, you know, Vinny, I searched around all online on Amazon, just a Google search, trying to find this brand. You can only find it on Walmart.com. Here's an image of the suspect's image on the left and then the mask on the right. And you can, you know, one could imagine, you know, what's the difference here? They're just any old basic design. But to me, what stood out was the eye rings. You know, you see the eye rings on the left kind of outlined, and then you see on the right around the eyes and the mouth. That was what was distinguishable to me. But again, Vinny, you know we don't miss an opportunity for a propertunity. We bought the mask from Walmart.com. They were real cheap, like $7. I think you got buy one, get one free. We come over here, we take a close-up of the mask here. You see them again, you see some of those eye rings. I'll use this one. We don't know what color it was because it was in black and white, but I'll use this one for the sake of what we're doing here. The eye rings here, you see they're a little bit distinguishable around the mouth here also. But also what you see, Vinny, is this long neck on it. And if you look back at the suspect's image, it looks like it has the neck a little rolled up when he's close up on that doorbell camera footage. So this could very well be the mask. You know, you see there when he has it tucked in his jacket, you see it's a little bunched up right there under his chin area. So, you know, that was the one skepticism I had when I looked at these masks of the long neck here. But this could very well be the mask. And then also, Vinny, we've also heard reports that the holster that he had the gun in, the gun that was hanging from his waistband right directly in front of him, we've heard reports that the gun holster could be from Walmart. And we know that all Walmarts don't carry gun supplies, but ones in rural areas sometimes do. And, you know, out there in the desert, in Arizona and Tucson, I wouldn't put it past a Walmart out there to carry some gun supplies as well. So holster, mask, backpack, Vinny, clearly the suspect may love Walmart.
Yeah, and I think that's a big issue in all of this. Cody Thomas, great job tonight. Thanks so much. Holster, backpack, mask, the clothing. We've had some talk about the clothing, not as specific, but that brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. Did the suspect buy the whole outfit at Walmart? Right, is that possible? Still with me, former Detective Phil Waters and podcast host Pascal. Pascal, if he did buy everything at Walmart, what does that tell you about the suspect?
Oh, that he's an idiot. But I would hope that he is an idiot, right? Because then we would get him faster, right? Yeah, if he bought this whole thing, if this whole thing was sponsored by Walmart, this would be mind-blowing, but not a huge surprise. Let's be real. That gun holster he has, it could be a toy gun holster. You never know. I think he just grabbed whatever he could to do what he needed to do. But I'm hoping that if he did go buy everything at Walmart, he bought it all at the same time. Then we'd be able to really zero in, right? Yeah. Then we'd be able to really zero in on who this guy is, not just like him buying this over weeks, you know, over several days, you know, over time accumulating the material that we ended up seeing him in this doorbell cam, right? So hopefully he bought it all in one time, and maybe law enforcement will be able to catch him in one fell swoop.
Phil Waters, what does your gut tell you here? Did someone go shopping specifically for this job, or kind of use things that were laying around? And if it was all from Walmart, how much easier does that make this?
Well, it certainly makes running down the purchases a straighter path. I agree with Pascal. I think the guy, just by his mannerisms on the porch, he's an idiot. I would use the term knucklehead. And I think that he purchased all these things at a Walmart. And he's like I said, he's a low budget guy. He went and found the best deal he could to put his crook outfit together, and not terribly sophisticated. I mean, he did what he thought he needed to do to prevent identification, and that may be what gets him caught. He overthought it a little bit, and then he went and bought all the accoutrements at one location.
You know, Pascal, it's the toughest thing for me in this whole case is that we look at the guy on the porch, we talk about what he did, and yet still here we are, and the case is still unsolved, even with all the resources that have been pulled into it. And I can't make it make sense. Does it make any sense to you that this man could have pulled this off for this long with the FBI, Pima County, and everyone in the United States looking for him?
It's still really blowing my mind that everyone is still scratching their heads over this situation. It seems like all factors are working in his favor, which I don't like. It keeps me up at night, and it gives me chills, because you'd think that he did not commit the perfect crime. Eventually, he will be found. Eventually, he will make some sort of mistake or some slip up that was left behind in that house. We'll catch him. But it's wild to me that you have all agencies scratching their heads, going back to the drawing board all over again, trying to figure out what actually happened here and where, more importantly, where Nancy Guthrie is right now. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, we have about 35 seconds here, Phil. At what point would you be afraid that the trail is going cold?
Well, there may be a point in time here where they're going to hit the wall, and we're just waiting for processing. We're waiting for digital processing. We're waiting for DNA processing. We're just in a wait mode. And I've had that happen. And it's very frustrating when you've done everything you can do, and now you're just waiting for results. And that may be what happens here. But in terms of it going cold, to use that term, there's a specific period of time that goes by before a case goes cold, and there are certain circumstances under which it becomes a cold case, and that's not what we have here. So I'm encouraged by the things that are being developed. What I'm discouraged about are these unnamed sources within the investigation or within law enforcement that are releasing this stuff to the press, and I don't think it does anything to enhance the investigation. Yeah. I think it's. You know, I've been in there.
I know. You don't like loose lips, Phil. I get it. We're out of time.
No, I don't. And I tell you what, if I ever found one, I guarantee they got sewed up pretty quick.
Phil Waters, thanks so much. Pascal, The Pascal Show. Please check it out on YouTube right after this show. Where will the break in this case come from? There are apparently DNA issues, surveillance video issues. Nothing is coming easy for investigators. The one thing that could turn this all around is if someone close to the suspect turns him in and takes the $1 million. But only time will tell. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.